Welcome back to Hollywood on Top. I'm Marta Bloom.
And I'm Lisa Gastineau.
Our next guest brings a dose of reality to reality that's far beyond reality. He's a go-to medium clairvoyant to some of Hollywood's biggest stars, including Chrissy Metz, Jim Parsons, Iggy Azalea, Megan Fox, and LaToya Jackson. As a medical intuitive, he uses his gift to help save lives. As a star of a smash hit Hollywood medium, he takes us on a journey from what we know to what lies beyond. Still in his 20s, he's quickly become the world's most famous medium, and you're about to see why. Please welcome Tyler Henry!
Hello, how are you? Oh, good to see you. Oh, it's so sweet. I love it, all the kisses. Thank you for having me.
Of course, how are you?
Doing amazing. Happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Tyler, okay, so before we get started, I am going to read some names. Are you ready?
I sure am.
Jamie Presley, Nene Leakes, Snooki, Tom Arnold, Amber Rose, Terrell Owens, Carmen Electra, Kris Jenner, Melissa Joan Hart, Lil Jon, Lil Kim, Tori Spelling, Meta World Peace, Eva Longoria, Bobby Brown, Chuck Liddell, Brandy Glanville. Woo. Oh my goodness.
And a partridge in a pear tree.
I love it. Wait. Do you carry their voices in your head?
Thankfully not. That would be a lot of voices.
I would agree. I would agree. Last night we were out to dinner with our very good friend, Chuck Liddell, and he said that the time with you has made him open his eyes that there is a possibility of a world beyond ours. How would you define that world?
Yeah, wow, that's a great question. I think time and time again, I've done over 1,000 readings, and I see that those on the other side do acknowledge continuing on. Now, where they go is a really good question. It's really not as simple as heaven or hell, but I've absolutely seen validation in these readings that our consciousness is a force, and that it's a force that continues on beyond our physical lives. And I've really found that from these readings, those on the other side acknowledge learning and seeing the ripple effect that their actions and inactions had on the world, and they really come to some big picture understandings when they transition.
So how do you know the difference, or how could you tell me the difference between psychics, mediums, and clairvoyants?
So as a medium is an intermediary. It's someone in the middle who communicates with this realm and the next, and that's technically a psychic ability. But a psychic is kind of separate from what I do. A psychic oftentimes will just focus on connecting to future-oriented information as well, and that's kind of a different thing than I do.
Not beyond.
Right.
Okay. And clairvoyant?
And a clairvoyant is basically the receival of information. It's seeing images through information and getting like visions and strong impressions in that way.
How would you define yourself?
I would say I'm a clairvoyant medium. So I basically receive most of my information from the other side through visions and through images.
And does that happen when you meet the person immediately, or do you have to feel their hand? Do you have to have an object? How does it work for you?
Well, I have all these processes that I kind of tune into and do when I'm trying to do a reading, and a big part of that actually revolves around scribbling.
Right.
So on my show, I have a notebook and a pen, and I just scribble, and that was really something that I implemented in my teen years. I was on the phone with a friend one day and was chatting with her, and we were doodling, as you often do on the phone. And as I was talking to her and was doodling, I realized I had a hard time concentrating on what she was saying when I would put the pen to paper. For some reason, it just seemed to like open up a part of my brain that allowed me to connect on a more intuitive level. And so I started implementing that into readings. And scribbling is really just a repetitive motion that allows me to kind of connect to a more subconscious part of my brain. And that's kind of how it works.
Wow. And you discovered this at the young age of 10?
I did. It was actually my first experience. And initially, I had a premonition of my grandmother's death. And what ended up happening was one night I just woke up and I had this knowingness that she was going to pass away. And it felt like a memory that I was just recollecting. It didn't make any sense. Because when I had gone to bed, my grandmother was alive. And when I went into the room to try to tell my mom, I was really upset and I was crying. And as I was explaining this, her phone rang. And when she picked it up, it was my dad on the other end. And he said, hey, I just have to tell you, Grandma just passed. And this was the whole thing. And from
so you actually felt her passing?
I did. And that was really, a catalyst that got me where I'm at. But at 10 years old, it's just something that happens to you. You don't call it an ability.
And did you ever say, being that young, I see dead people?
Well, Haley Joel Osment has me beat, but I did. I found myself saying it many times after.
So what's the difference reading a celebrity or reading an unknown person?
From an intuitive level, nothing is really different. My process is fundamentally the same. But obviously in other ways, you know, you have celebrities in the public eye, and,
right.
and with that comes a whole lot of other things. So for me,
do you feel more pressure?
I do.
To get it right?
Absolutely, and to get information that's private information. When you have someone off the street who's a stranger, you know, there's nothing
because you don't want to say
them.
things that everyone has read about.
Right, exactly. And that's really why I put such an emphasis on validation on the show. Details and things that come through that are specific and personalized. These celebrities are the first to Google themselves. They know what they've said in interviews, so they're aware.
I have to ask you, have you ever had to hold back with someone and not say that really what you want to say because you don't want to freak them out, or?
I definitely, that's a great question. I deliver every message that I get.
No matter how bad it is.
Correct.
Really?
But how I deliver it is my responsibility. And I really liken my job to a bit like a mailman. I just deliver the message.
Right.
I don't write the letters.
Yeah.
So in a similar sense,
but in this case, you're writing your words because it's how you say it.
Right, and how I deliver it. And so I try to be as tactful as I can, as diplomatic, and try to be considerate of the client's feelings. And going back to the celebrity aspect, that is one thing that I do have to take into consideration more than I do when I read an everyday person. Because these are people who are in the public eye, and they do have some degree of fear of what's going to come through sometimes.
Right.
And so I have to make sure that they feel comfortable, but that I'm still doing my job and sticking to the information.
I have another crazy question.
Yeah.
Have you ever read somebody who had like really bad stuff in their past that, you know, that you are seeing stuff that you don't want to see?
Right, absolutely, for sure. I think one of the unique things about this ability is that it's shown me how everybody has things about them that they think are unique or that are different, but in reality, everybody deals with. And so I think a lot of the things that people are ashamed of or you know, afraid of coming out in the public sense, a lot of people can relate to that. And I've seen that everybody has stuff that you know, is heavy, and we all have experiences, and we're really not that different.
And letting go.
Yeah, letting
it go.
Absolutely.
You're so fascinating. We're gonna take a break. Would you stick around?
Absolutely, I'll be back.
I love it, I love it. Something happened in Tyler's life that may have changed everything. We'll ask him about that and his secret talent when we come back. I'm Marta Bloom.
And I'm Lisa Gastineau.
For what's hot in Hollywood, from the top of Hollywood, this is Hollywood on Top.